How's it going, everybody? And welcome to another episode of the Pursuing Greatness podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Peterson. This is the place where you can learn how to master your health, your wealth, and your love all in one place. So I hope you look forward to another great episode with another great guest. Before we get started, I do want to remind everybody that the best way to support the show is to simply subscribe, like, and share this episode with your friends. Also, if you want to get more involved with the show, check out our website at pursuinggreatnesspodcast.com. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you have your pen and paper ready to take some notes on some great wisdom coming your way. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the other side of the episode.
All right. And we are live. Today we have with us Elzie Flenard III. Elzie is an entrepreneur, a family man, a business owner. He's a man of original thoughts, all products of unique thinking. Elzie is also the mayor of Podcast Town, a podcast community and production agency. Elzie, thank you very much for hopping on the show today. How are you?
No worries. Thank you for having me. I am fantastic. It's beautiful here in Wisconsin, so I'm no complaints.
Right on, right on. So to get us started, why don't you tell everybody, actually you already did, where you're from, what you do, and how you got started down that path in the first place.
Yep. These days I live in Wisconsin, Milwaukee to be more exact. I got started in podcasting because growing up, I was a songwriter, singer-songwriter. Always been into storytelling, using audio to help people, gain knowledge and insight. And so fell in love with podcasting, and I've been hooked ever since.
I love it. I love it. So you said you were in high school and you were doing like audio engineering, that kind of stuff?
Well, so I was an indie artist. I'm doing air quotes. So that means I did everything. So from writing the song to editing, producing, the whole shebang. So.
Wow, nice. So so Podcast Town, how long have you been in Podcast Town? How long has this been a thing?
Yeah, technically, Enterprise Now was the name of the company originally, and I a few months back wanted to start a group coaching program that was called Podcast Town. And long story short, things progressed, and that became a complete rebrand of the entire company. So Podcast Town has only been around for about 2 months, but Enterprise Now has been around for 4 years.
Oh, very cool, very cool. And is this the only podcast that you do, or it sounds like you're really into podcasting? Do you have other podcasts, or?
Yeah, so I actually have 2 or 3, maybe 4.
Oh man,
coming up. And obviously, I produce for other people as well. So I'm producing podcasts and recording podcasts, and my whole life is podcasts.
I love it. I love it. So I guess there are people out there, this is Pursuing Greatness. We're all about how to live a great life. And you're here to help us out with the business side of that part. So, there's people out there who they want to launch a podcast. They've heard that, the benefits of it. First, kind of go into why someone would want to launch a podcast, why you think that would, the benefits that they could get from it, and then go into kind of the steps that they could take to do that.
Wow, that is a loaded question, Gabe, because
Sorry.
Different people have different motivations, right? For some people, it's just a hobby. They have something that they want to talk about, and they want to have a voice. And so it's simply wanting to talk about popcorn or, prairie dogs in North Dakota. So it could be just a hobby, or if it's a business goal. I think the benefits are endless. I mean, if you take myself as an example, I started my podcast because I wanted to learn more about business. I didn't want to learn it from a book. I wanted to learn it from people who are actually running businesses. So I said, okay, I'll launch a podcast. I'll invite people on. I'll learn from them, and I'll ask a couple of decent questions, and I'll shut up and take notes. And so that ended up turning into an entire business that I, had the pleasure of building over the last 3.5, 4 years. So, the relationships that you build, it's a content anchor, and it's just a wonderful way to again get your name out there, highlight what you do, your thought process, becoming a thought leader, and it's just a fantastic medium.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that so it sounds like you didn't originally launch podcast. Well, I guess Podcast Town is a new thing now, but your original podcast, you didn't launch it as a business itself. That kind of came about organically once you had launched it. You originally launched it in order to learn from your guests, which I love that, because that's actually why this is my second podcast. My first original podcast is called The Real Estate Investing Club. I'm a real estate investor. I wanted to learn from other investors, so I started the podcast, and it did just that. I got people on who, were in niches that I didn't understand, did strategies that I wasn't quite aware of, and my growth, it grew exponentially. My knowledge grew exponentially. So I love that you said that. So once you had the guests on, how did you go about turning that into a business?
Well, we would have conversations, right? And they would say things like, and this was in 2016-ish. So this was before literally everybody had a podcast. They would say, man, this is really cool. I've always wanted to start a podcast, and then they would give me all the objections, right? I don't know how, or I don't understand the tech, or I don't know what I would talk about, etc. And so one day the light bulb goes off. It's like, well, I started this podcast. I can help you start your podcast. You pay me money. I help you start your podcast. And the first person said yes, and the rest is history. And I think it's just a matter of.
Oop, it looks like we're losing Elzie's audio here. Just gonna keep the airwaves going until we get him back on. I know he's a podcast guy, so he's gonna figure this one out in no time. It looks like he might be down in a concrete bunker. So maybe it is the airwaves that are coming into him that are not quite accessing that concrete. Let's see if we can get Elzie back on. This is one of the beauties of podcasting, by the way, is that, sometimes things just happen and you didn't plan it out, and you just got to roll with it. And that is business in and of itself, is just rolling with the punches, dealing with the broken mics. Oh, and I can hear him. I think we got him back on. We just don't got video. That is all right. I'm okay with just audio. We can, people on YouTube can deal with the black screen. Elzie, can you hear me? Oop, Elzie, are you there?
Hello.
Yep, there we go. And we're back.
There we go. Wow. I don't know what happened.
It is okay. So you're talking about Podcast Town. You originally started it. You'd created the podcast, you'd learned from all your guests, and then you turned it into a business, coaching people on how to launch podcasts. So continue down that story.
Yeah. And so over time, people would say, after we got past the launch part, they would say things like, well, I'm launched. Now, I didn't realize there was so much work, the editing, the uploading to the host, the show notes, and all the stuff, promoting on social. And so I added that to my service offering. And eventually, Enterprise Now became a full service from launch to lead gen podcast agency. And like I said, I wanted to kind of expand that out and provide a group coaching program named Podcast Town. And then the brand was just so strong and it just popped. And so my business coach said, Elzie, that's the brand. I was like, what do you mean that's the brand? He's like, Podcast Town is the brand. It's like, well, no, you don't understand. I've been building Enterprise Now for 4.5 years. He's like, yeah, I get it, but Podcast Town is the brand. So I listened to my coach and rebranded everything under Podcast Town.
I love it. I love the pivots that happen when you're building a business, things happen and you're like, shit, I got to make this because it makes just so much sense. Even though I've been doing this other thing for 4 years, this opportunity right here is in front of me. It sounds like you took it, which is great. You mentioned you had a mentor. So many people who come on in the business side of things, they talk about mentors that they learn from, kind of go along with that relationship. How did that kind of push you into the next level of success that you're seeing today?
You're going to love this, Gabe. So it happened because of my podcast. Kid you not.
Of course.
had this person on as a guest. And in our post show conversation, he's like, Elzie, what are your goals? And so I tell him. He said, I can help you with that. Okay. And we have been working with each other ever since. And
that was the easiest sale he's ever made right there.
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. I would not be here if it were not for that relationship, because he's given me the perspective
Mm,
of how to think about things that I would not have normally had. So yeah, my podcast is literally responsible for everything that's happening in my business right now.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, I mean, I've had mentors in or coaches in real estate. I haven't done it outside of real estate, but just having someone who has gone further down the path than you and being able to get that perspective. I mean, there's it's worth more than the money that you can pay them. So I love that you found that in a relationship with someone who just kind of came onto your podcast.
Mhm.
So it all kind of ties in your life. I love that.
Yep.
So let's hear some juicy stories about launching podcasts. I've launched 2 of them. I know that there's hiccups that you run into. So go into kind of the launch of Podcast Town, and what were some or maybe your original podcast, I suppose. What were some issues that you ran into? How did you kind of overcome those?
Well, one that kind of pops up right away, and I don't even know if this would be an issue today, because things were so different then. But at the time, I had a website,
Mm,
and the website had a blog feature, and so I would just upload my podcast right to the website as a blog. Well, hindsight is 2020. That's probably not the best way to do it, because now you can't take that audio with you, and it's just not designed for podcast audio. So about 7 episodes in, I switched to an actual podcast host, which was very beneficial for a number of reasons, because now I get analytics. Now, I have an RSS feed, a true RSS feed, etc. So that was probably one of the first mistakes, or hiccups that I had when I launched.
mhm,
And it was weird because when I first launched Enterprise Now, it was actually on an internet radio station that I owned,
mm.
called WQYL DB Radio.
I love
And
it.
the idea was I was going to have all of these other podcast shows on the station, and then we were going to talk business 24/7.
Cool.
But what ended up happening was, as I said before, I across an actual podcast, fell in love with it, shut down the internet radio station, and focused on my podcast.
Another pivot. I love
Yes.
it.
Yeah, I am a pivoter. I played basketball in high school, so I understand the concept of a pivot. You establish that pivot foot, and now you can just go to town.
I love it. No pun intended with Podcast Town. So if you take the perspective of a business owner, a lot of people, you're right, they do launch podcasts as kind of just hobbies, things that they want to do, and that I full support for that, because I love podcasting. I think it's a blast, it's great that people create podcasts for everything. But podcasts do serve a real function in your marketing when it comes to an existing business. So kind of put on that hat, that kind of like perspective that you could take on, and then look through the eyes of a business owner. What should they consider when launching a podcast for their business?
Wonderful question. I am from the mind that if you have a business, you want to have a website, you want to have a blog, and you want to have a podcast. The reason you want a podcast,
So
is
can I jump in real quick?
sure.
So website, blog, and podcast, those 3. It's interesting that you did both website and blog. Do you consider those to be separate, or do you access the blog through the website?
Well, that's the thing. So the website, in my mind, is a place where, if you do it right, it's a place where people can understand what you do, why you do it, how you do it, and why they should partner with you. Your blog is the written version of what your voice is as a business owner, and it's a way to help people understand that you are an expert in whatever that subject matter is. And so I believe you need both, right? Because some people are more, uh, they they want to know that you're a professional. They want to know that you're knowledgeable, and they want to know about your business,
Hmm.
without having to pick up the phone and call. So the website is kind of that calling card. The blog, again, is kind of an extension of that, but it's a more specific voice. And you can cover more topics or subject matter that your customers would be interested in hearing about. Now, the podcast, what that does is that gives you a long form audio content anchor. You could pull tweets out of that. You could pull graphics. You could pull stories, blogs. The possibilities are endless. So, and I think that the advantage of having the audio is you can really speak in your voice
Mm. Yep.
versus the website. And of course, obviously, it's going to reflect, but there's nothing like hearing your voice. Imagine talking to somebody one-on-one, and you're the only voice they hear.
Absolutely. Yep.
20 minutes or 30 minutes or for however long the podcast is. And so that's why I'm just a huge fan of it, because, you know, there are people that are clients of mine who know me because they've listened to my show. They know that about my daughter who's a dancer. They know all this stuff because it comes out in the podcast. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're a business owner and you do not have a podcast, it doesn't have to be us. Go to somebody who can help you through the process. You need to have a podcast. It's an absolute must.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I like that. So your website, you're saying it should answer the questions of what you do, why you do it, how you do it, and why they should do it with you. But it just answers those questions. It doesn't
really creepy when you say it that way, Gabe.
I know, man. I'm taking notes feverishly over here. It's great. I do this with everybody and all of my guests. They see me just looking down on the paper. They're like, why aren't you looking at me? But hey, man, my memory's not that good. I got to have it down. So that's what the website does. The podcast, you're saying, is more of a content anchor. I like that terminology, because so by content anchor, you mean like it is a source of other content, correct?
Correct. Yep. It's something that you can repurpose to generate other content.
Cool. Yep. I love that. So as a business, they basically create their podcast around whatever topic they're doing. Say it's a laundromat. That would be an interesting business, an interesting podcast, a laundromat podcast.
But here's the thing, and I get this all the time. So here, it doesn't have to be about a laundromat. It could be a story about a single mother who has to go to the laundromat because she can't afford to get a washing machine. And the point of the story is watching her progression go from hoping and wishing that she could get her dream job. And now the end of the season is she finally gets her dream job, and she buys the washing and drying machine of her dreams. And now she no longer has to go to the laundromat. So it doesn't have to be about clothes. Even it could be anything. And that's why, you know, I always tell people, really think about the underlying concepts of your business and go with that. Again, it doesn't have to be about what your business is, but every business has underlying concepts and values that they espouse, that they can use to build on and create content from.
Interesting. So in the example that you just gave, that would be a story. Essentially, you'd be writing a story, and people would be engaging with that story because the story's good. And they want to, they're hearing the story about this lady who's, going through hard times. She's going to the laundromat. The laundromat is there for her. She gets to wash her clothes. She doesn't have enough money to buy her laundromat or her washing machine. So she, the laundry Kim's over there that is there for her when in her time of need. And then at the end of it, she gets out of it. But the real, the meat of the story is the fact that the laundromat was there for her when she didn't have a washing machine.
Exactly.
And you can put an intro and outro on that. Hey, this is, Laundry Kim's. This is a story that we created about laundromats. I hope you guys enjoy it. Yada, yada, yada.
There you go.
So that's a great idea. I love it. Whenever I think of a business podcast, I always think of interview-based podcasts where, the owner interviews employees, the owner interviews customers, anything like that. But, creating a story, I love that idea. That's great. All right. Well, hey, we are nearing the end. This goes so quickly. I need to push it past 20 minutes, but right now we're on the 20-minute mark. So we're going into the quick question round. To begin this, we always start out with books. I'm a big bookie. I hope you are too. Book recommendations, 2 of them. We need one for business and one for life wisdom. What are they?
Yikes. For business, E-Myth. I love that book. For life, I'm a man of faith, so I would have to say the Bible. But I would say read it with the mind of the concept and the values and you can't go wrong.
Oh yeah, for sure. I love that. So the E-Myth Mastery and the Bible. And I'm not Christian, but I have read the Bible and I've read Proverbs, and I think Proverbs is a killer book. I think it's awesome.
Love
So
it. Yep.
awesome. So the next question, habits. Habits underlie our life. They are the foundation of our life. It's what we jump from. So what is the habit you feel has contributed the most to your life?
To my life, I would say categorizing my actions based on my goals and executing against that.
Whoa, that's cool. Go a little bit further into that.
Yep. For example, say you're running a business, and for my business, I want to grow my business. So the category would be marketing, and the action would be guesting on podcasts. So you pick the category, you take your goal, and then you dr- develop it down to the actual action and the specific action that you want to take in order to meet that goal.
Awesome. I love it. It's like a reverse pyramid.
Yep.
Cool. So the next one, if you could go back to Elzie, I didn't get the year. I think it was 2016 that you said you launched your first podcast. So if you could go back to that Elzie, he was just opening this computer, getting onto Buzzsprout, thinking, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to launch my first podcast. Go back to that Elzie, look him in the face and be like, hey, this is one piece of advice I want to give you going forward. What is that piece of advice?
Go harder.
Go harder. I like it. And does that mean go harder? Expound on that a little bit.
Yep. So I've always been the type of person that was goal oriented, and because to use the Gary Vee example, he illustrates it so beautifully. It's like you're gonna die. Everybody's dying, like even as we speak.
It's the perfect.
So you get one shot. That's it. I would tell them to go harder because you get one shot. You don't know if you even are going to be here tomorrow. So die empty, get all of the stuff that you want to do out because you're going to die.
Awesome. I love that. And I really like that one phrase you said within that, the die empty. I think that is, I've used that before in my life. And I think it's a really good concept of just giving as much as you can, because you always have more inside of you. But the goal is just to give as much as you can before you die. So that's awesome. All right. Last question. There are people out there, they're listening to your voice. They're like, man, I want to get in contact with Elzie. He's a great guy. So how can they do that?
Yeah, the best way is via email. It's mayor@podcasttown.net. Or you could visit the website, podcasttown.net.
Awesome. mayor@podcasttown.net or podcasttown.net. I will also put the URL in the show notes. So if you guys want to click through, reach out to Elzie, say hi, you can do that below. Awesome. So Elzie, again, thank you very much for hopping on the show. I had a blast talking with you, and I'm sure everybody else listening did as well. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for hopping on the show with us, because you are the reason that we do this. Again, the best way to support the show is just to subscribe, like, and share with your friends and family. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thank you guys for sticking with us on another episode of the Pursuing Greatness podcast. I hope you got a lot of value out of that guest. Again, the best way to support the show is just to subscribe, like, and share with your friends and family. Also, check out pursuinggreatnesspodcast.com if you want to get more information about what we do and what we offer. I hope you guys have a great day and keep living in integrity with yourselves. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode coming shortly.